Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chip and Chase, the NRL Fan Podcast. My name is Steve, and this is Dave. Hey, Dave.
Hey Steve, how are you, man?
Doing well, and yourself?
Yeah, fine, thanks, mate. Bit anxious, bit nervous already, just really looking forward to this final series coming up.
Yeah, well, this is episode 28 of our podcast. We are reviewing the games from round 25, the final round of the 2022 NRL season, and then we'll be previewing the first week of the semi-finals. Uh, Four fantastic games ready to come, ready to go this weekend. Some cracking games, but before we get into those, let's look back at what we just had in round 25, and there were some interesting results and some interesting ramifications from those games. We'll start, as we like to do sometimes, with a bit of injury news. Joey Manu will miss the game against the Rabbitohs on Sunday because he's got, I think it's a calf injury, they've said, a calf strain, and he's gone for the rest. He won't, like, if they continue on, he's up to 2 to 3 weeks. So, unless they make the grand final or something, there's a very no chance of him participating.
Big blow, big
Big
blow to
loss.
the Roosters considering what he's done to them this season.
Yeah, so Rhea Hargreaves and Sam Verrills also failed to complete the match against South this past weekend. They've got rehab in the hopes to make it back for this week. Victor Radley will be back for this week, and Daniel Tupu and Joseph Suali'i both resume training with the Roosters this week. So they get a few troops back. Sadly for the Sharks, Talakai sustained a late ankle injury for the Sharks over the weekend. He's saying that it's a syndesmosis injury, and
Yep.
it's too early to tell whether or not he'll be back or ready to go for the Sharks across the weekend. Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs, captain who went off after the second tackle of the game, looks like he should be able to play this
Right to
Sunday.
play.
So that's a big in for the Rabbitohs. And they also get Cook back from his COVID timeout, and the coach who also missed the game on the weekend due to his COVID, uh, getting COVID, catching COVID.
Situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, things are looking pretty good for South now. Coming up to the game, they just versed the Roosters.
Mm.
So game two coming up, first round of semis, very important game. Couple of outs for the Roosters and a couple of big ins back in for the Rabbits.
Now, as far as judicial reports, nothing too, um, damaging for the semi-final teams. There are a couple of lower teams that missed out on the eight had some players put on uh, notice for breaches during the game. Corey Horsburgh, Jake Simpkins, Zane Musgrove, Zach Lomax, amongst others. Jermaine Hopgood for the Panthers faces a fine, but I don't know if he'd be playing in this rejuvenated Panthers team coming up anyway. The only real one from the week previous was Lindsay Collins from the Roosters. He copped a four-match grade 3 dangerous contact, and that kind of ruled him out for everything, unless his team makes the grand final. But yeah, that was from the previous week. So that's what we're looking for as far as charges. Nothing. All the
Yeah,
teams pretty much good to go as far as any
I
uh,
th-
suspensions from this past weekend's games.
I thought there were a couple of soft ones over the weekend,
Yeah,
but I mean, as it stands, any contact to the head is going to be sin bin. Any
yeah,
forceful contact to the head.
exactly. All right, well, let's start going through the games. And the first one was the one that you and I were both at. This was the Eels up against the Storm, the big clash to determine who would make the top four in the semi-finals. And the Eels were just too good at home there at Combank Stadium in front of a good crowd of 23,758, which saw the Eels win 22-14. And it was just a real dominant display. Yeah, the Storm were missing Jerome Hughes, which was a big out for them. But the Eels just played a solid 80-minute performance. It was only 3 tries apiece, but the conversions proved the difference. But that kind of doesn't really tell the tale of the story because the Eels led in a couple of late tries to the Storm, knowing that they really couldn't catch them. And but it kind of got a little bit dicey there at the end. You might have been a little bit worried.
Definitely, man. Look, it's something that Para have always had in them for a very long time, where kind of Even though they're leading well, they still kind of go to bed with, so to speak, anyway, with 20 minutes to go in the game. So definitely something they're going to have to look at this week before they take on the Panthers, because there'll definitely be no slowing down there. It was a massive game, Steve, playing for fourth position, both of these teams. So really, like a real big advantage to whoever won this game. So I was happy to see my boys get out there and prove that they wanted it. I think, mate, it's coming off the back of our forwards, Steve.
Yeah.
Junior Paulo and Reggie running for over 200 metres, and every other forward over 150 metres. So, I mean, that's massive for our forwards to be getting so many metres, and that just lets all the little fellas kind of breathe a little bit and put on their plays and stuff like that. Wonga Blake proved to us that he can't catch this game again. So he needs to definitely get some of that. What do they put on their hands, mate?
Yeah, that sticky spray.
That no drop or sticky hands or whatever they call. I thought Will Penasini was really good, and Sivo was at his defensive best, not his attacking best, at his defensive best. Storm really gave it to us. I think a big turning point was when Dylan Brown, it's out of his character. He done a double movement, which led to a penalty, and absolutely nothing was happening for the Storm up until that. And that was just with 20 minutes to go. So I think that just that turnaround, they got to watch the turn of play, errors like that, and
be able to defend their errors.
Yeah, I mean, for Melbourne to come back and still get that close to us, I was pretty not impressed, but I mean they done it. So they never died. They stayed alive all game, which was good to see. There was a massive hit on Moses by Olam.
Rattled his back teeth.
And then Olam Moses got one back on one of the Bromwich boys later on in the game. So
very good.
Good defensive effort by both teams, I thought.
Yeah, and a little bit of niggle, a little bit of argy-bargy, which you expect in these games when there's a lot on the line. And, the two penalty conversions to Mitchell Moses, really the difference. Nick Meaney missed the sitter for his own try. Harry Grant's try, and then converted his own try in the 76th minute. And then Munster missed it from right in front in the 78th minute after the 78th minute try. Could have been a different story if those two kicks, with a minute to go, leveling up at about 22-16, it could have been 22-18. But well done to the Eels, securing fourth spot gives them 2 bites of the cherry, which is what you want at this time of the year. And they're a lot more confident team. Melbourne, have it in them to bounce back after that, but it'll be interesting to see what happens this coming weekend as far as their game against Canberra. But we move on to game 2 of that round, and that was the Bulldogs up against Manly. I didn't get to see a lot of this game because I was headed out to the South Sydney game and was travelling at the time that it was played. But I was watching the final minutes on my phone sitting in the stadium and couldn't believe the Bulldogs fought their way back and then got to the lead and were able to continue to keep it. 21-20. This was played at Accor Stadium. 13,648 fans. Saw a cracker ending to the game with the Bulldogs, as I was saying, beating Manly, who really have never bounced back. I think they lost the game before the Pride jersey debacle, but since then they've just not lost. They've not won a game since. It was like 6 losses in a row or 7 losses in a row to end their season, which is horrible when you consider where they were at earlier in the season.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Look, it was a bit of a dead rubber, this game.
Yeah, it didn't mean anything for the top 8.
For both teams, it didn't mean anything. But surprisingly, it was a good game and it was a good contest. It was good to watch. I got to watch this one. It was kind of Manly for the first half, and then Dogs putting on a comeback. It was 16-0 at one stage to Manly. So Dogs really pulling off a good comeback. I thought Lachlan Croker was good, topping the tackle count with 51 tackles. And this, I think he's a debutant, Steve. His name was Kay Weeks or something like that. Running for 220 metres on debut. Wow. So some massive numbers there for the young kid. And Kyle Flanagan's try to seal it with only 3 minutes to go was, good to see. I was happy to see the Dogs come home and win it. Well, not to seal it, but to get it drawn up, and then obviously Burton hit the field goal. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they hit it sweetly too. So
He
well
hit it.
done to the Dogs, getting a good victory there against the Manly Sea Eagles. And as I said, didn't mean anything for the top 8, just playing for a bit of pride.
Yep.
And no pun intended. And that went to the Dogs. So well done to the Bulldogs. A good victory there over Manly in what looked like atrocious conditions in some torrential rain.
Yep.
Then the game that I said, as I mentioned, I was at. This was the Roosters versus the Rabbitohs. Top 8 didn't really mean much as far as these two knew they were going to come up against each other the next week, as it's proven to be. It's just a matter of where they would be playing, whether it be at Allianz or at Accor. Roosters really were on top in this whole game. Came out firing. Their defence was just awesome. 41,906 fans there at the new Allianz Stadium. A great stadium, I've got to say. It's say like Combank on steroids a little bit. It's just got a lot to offer, and you couldn't really see a seat in the crowd. It was just chock-a-block. I think it fits 42,000, so there was something like 94 seats sporadically, just here or there, not with somebody in them, but all in all, a really good contest. The fact that Souths lost their captain in the second tackle of the game to concussion and he never came back, that's a huge out for Souths. One, he's your best player and your captain, or one of your best players and your captain. He really leads from the front, and it hurts your rotation as far as your forwards are concerned with with interchange. So put Souths on the back foot. Then Havili also got concussed, went off twice, and then so he couldn't come back after the second one. So again, even further, South's reserves were cut down. But that's not taking anything away from the Roosters. They were very dominant and really had it all over. South came back late to kind of make a score a bit more respectable. It was 20 to 6 at half time. 2 sin bins, both Latrell Mitchell and Nat Butcher getting sin bin in the last 10 minutes of the game. So not much there.
Yeah, back to Cam Murray, and also to lose him so early in that game too. I mean, if you lose a player like that at the back end of the game, it doesn't hurt you so much. You can cover it, but to lose him right at the beginning, I thought hurt the Rabbitohs. And look, it was the last game. Last round of the season, a matchup for the ages. 2 heavyweights, Roosters and Rabbits, going at it. There's always fireworks in this game. It's always a spectacle to watch. And they're playing in finals first week as well too. So it's going to be a repeat of what happened. I thought Totola was really good.
Yeah, he was,
with 45 tackles. We talked about short dropouts the other night, me and you, Steve, and I see a point that some teams prefer to defend on their line, but in all honesty, I think you're putting so much pressure on yourself taking that short dropout, especially if you're in the lead. Okay, I can understand if you need possession back or whatnot, but I just feel like teams are putting themselves under unwanted pressure for no reasons with these short dropouts.
Yeah, I guess it's a 50-50 one for me, really. I mean, Souths weren't in the lead at any point in this game, so it was to their, to chance it was something that was warranted. But Latrell Mitchell got them both wrong badly, and the first one led to a Roosters goal. They took a penalty goal, but the second one just meant that they got the ball and they were back in the position they were going to be anyway if they caught it. So it didn't. There was nothing, wrong with it there. There's Latrell putting his hand in the ruck, silly, to get suspended. But sin bin. But Latrell missed 2 tackles. It was 4 tries to 3, so it wasn't like it was a massive win by the Roosters. But they took a lot of petrol out of South early with all their defensive work, and it just wasn't. South weren't able to play the game that they wanted with their forwards not being able to lay the platform so that their backline could do on the left-hand side what they normally do. But in all, I was disappointed. Didn't want to have to go back to Allianz for another Roosters home game this week, but It is what it is. We play each other regardless, and it's just going to be a massive game.
It will definitely. Tane Milne bagging a double for the Rabbitohs, and James Tedesco at his running best, running for 270 metres.
Big game by Tedesco.
Yep.
And I definitely got it over Latrell as far as the fullbacks were concerned. I
Yep.
just hope Latrell can kind of play his normal game and not buy into all the crap
Caught
and
up in the
all the
emotion.
noise and the
Yep.
emotion. Exactly.
Yep.
I thought Cody Walker was a little bit quiet too, but sometimes that's not too bad for Cody in these big games because when he's got that red mist in front of his eyes, he can go crazy a little bit. So
It can play
well
against
done.
you.
Yeah, can. Well done, Roosters, to come up against each other this weekend. But we move on for this week's round and we look at the game that was another dead rubber, but another exciting game in the end. The
Very
Warriors
exciting.
up against the Titans. This one was played at Mount Smart Stadium in front of 20,500 fans. Looked like it was the Warriors. All done, dusted, nothing to see here. Move along. The whole season's over. But just late in the game, Jaden Campbell scores 73rd minute. Paul Turner scores in the 75th minute. And then Tanner Boyd gets a field goal to seal the deal in Golden Point. And somehow the Titans come away with a 27-26 victory. Totally shocked me. I did not expect this. I think I tipped the Warriors. I was none out of four for the first four games. I couldn't get a tip to buy it for my life. But this was just another one I got wrong out of the early games in this weekend.
Yeah, look, there was not much happening again in this one, as you said. Coming up to the match, we thought a bit of a dead rubber, but it was a good game. You said Warriors looked like they had it. It was 16-0 at one stage to the Warriors.
Yeah, half time it was 20-6.
20-6, correct. And I mean that just goes to show when the tide turns, it really turns. Because they just couldn't stop them. Warriors couldn't stop them. Anything they tried. Both Furmore is doing really good.
Yeah,
I think.
Great back rower.
Yeah, big workhorse, man. He ran for 130 metres, 40 tackles. Josh Curran bagged a double. What do they call him? The wild mullet or something? Curran, what's his?
Curran, yeah, I don't know what his nickname is.
What's his nickname? They call him the mullet or something like that. But yeah, Jaden Campbell's solo try was really exciting to see. He reminds me a bit of his father, so that was nice to see. And Tanner Boyd's field goal to seal the deal was a massive standout. Well done to the Titans coming back to win 27-26 in that.
Yeah, exciting ending to the game.
Definitely.
So well done to the Titans finishing our season on a good note, and the Warriors not doing their home fans, any favours there at the end.
For sure.
To finish off what's been a difficult season for them.
Yep.
All right, then another game that was pretty exciting as far as the top 8 was concerned. Kind of really, it was going to be you're in for the day and then out the next day because Canberra are always going to beat the Tigers in my mind. But nevertheless, this was the Dragons up against the Broncos. Broncos, as I said, had their fate in their own hands. Could they beat the Dragons? But no, they couldn't in front of 8,247 fans at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium in Cogra. It was all the Dragons. The Broncos had nothing. They couldn't foot it with the Dragons, who just looked like they were having fun. They were just more in, you know... You knew that they would just go out there to spoil the party. They loved getting it up against the Broncos. A lot of ex-Broncos in the Dragons team, you know, playing against their old mates. I think it was 5 of them in total that had been with the Broncos at one point with Ben Hunt and others. So, Jack Bird is one of them as well. McCulloch. So there's so many of them there that just had a lot of ex-teammates to play up against and spoil the party, and the Dragons did it and did it well.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed for Broncos in this one. I was really hoping they could get up and even if they had just won, they would have put them back in the 8, and all it needs then is Tigers to win, and they make the 8, and they just couldn't get up for the occasion, mate. They look tired, they look lackluster. I mean, what's his name, the winger? Selwyn Cobbo had a good game. He had done a couple of good things in it, but everyone else just kind of looked a little bit flat. As you said, the Dragons were on fire. Ben Hunt was having fun, kicking it around. Zach Lomax was flicking passes. Jack Bird was running through gaps. They really looked like they were enjoying that game. And for the Broncos, Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan, both running for over 220 metres. So not taking anything away from those two big boys. They worked their butts off. Matt Fegai double for he bagged himself a double as well, which was good to
for the
see.
Dragons. I thought that, when you consider 6 weeks ago, was it, the Broncos were in the top 4.
Unbelievable.
6 weeks ago, top 4,
Crazy.
and then they not only miss out on the top 4, but they miss out on the top 8 completely, and have just slipped out of the 8. Really had their fate in their own hands, and it's all about timing with teams at this point in the season. Broncos did well to be where they were. A lot of people didn't give them any hope of making the semis this year. Thought they would improve with Reynolds coming to the team, but you can just see that. It's all about timing at this end of the season. A lot of young players. It is. That's what I'm saying. With the young players, it's about maintaining that tenacity, week in, week out in the NRL. It's not easy. And you could just see, as you said, they look tired. And that's the story of the season for the last month and a bit. They just couldn't foot it with other teams who have a bit more experience and manage their fitness and their levels of energy right through to the end of the season.
Yeah, look, as a fan, it would have been devastating if maybe not so much for the players and the club, but as a fan, it would really be devastating to have been in top 4th position 6 weeks ago, and then not even, packing their bags at the end of this round. You know what I mean? So
crazy.
Well done to the Dragons for spoiling the party, and unlucky Broncos. They had a good year, and hopefully a better one next year.
Yeah, and Dragons fans would be wondering where that kind of performance was for most of their year too. They're finishing just beneath the Broncos there, outside the 8 on 10th spot. But that's the season done for those two teams. And next up for round 25, the final round, we had a Cowboys-Penrith game, which you would consider to be a top clash, but with Penrith resting the bulk of their first grade team, it was always going to be Cowboys late in the game. 38-8 though was didn't reflect how close this was early on. At half time it was 20-0, and you knew that was going to probably just be the story of the evening, I should say. But 23,840 fans there at Townsville. Loved seeing their boys beat the Panthers, but it was a baby Panthers team.
How good's Valentine Holmes, mate?
Yeah, he got a hat-trick in this one.
He got a hat-trick. He's really damaging. Like one of the tries he scored, it was just he shamboozled everyone. So I think he's going to be very important for him come semi-final time for the Sharkies. It was 2 heavyweights again, but obviously depleted Panthers, resting many of the first graders. It took its toll, I think, and was kind of turned into a bit of a training day out for the Cowboys against the young fellas towards the end there, where they just got to throw it around. Reece Robson, I thought was really good in this game. He's getting better, that little hooker for the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And also Scott Drinkwater. He could be anything, mate, in a couple of years. He's playing so well, and just he's got magic touch sometimes.
He does, and the Panthers weren't embarrassed. It was just, you could tell it was a class. This is their reserve grade team pretty much, who were doing well in reserve grade, but it's a big step up. And they just couldn't foot it with the Cowboys, who are a lot more experienced, a lot more professional. And but a couple of years' time, it just goes to show there's a lot of class there in the depth of the Panthers juniors, and they're going to be better for it, and going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come, as they are now. But with 11 players out or something like that. Some first grade experience amongst those boys who played, with Staines and Jennings and those kind of guys. But it's not the same team that you'll be seeing this week taking on Parramatta. So
it's a first day, Steve. I don't think I've ever seen a coach rest that many before a game.
No, but you can understand. Most teams want that top 4 spot so that they can get that week rest off, because at this time of the year, so many players are carrying niggling injuries, and we just saw what happened to the Broncos, how it's just so taxing, such a long season, as you said. So being able to rest
bit of
players,
a luxury for him.
It is. So,
Yeah.
some people don't like it, momentum and all that kind of thing. But, coaches know their players. And when you're as professional as the Panthers are, I think Cleary's pretty happy to be able to have that week rest for most of his players and be able to come in fresh against the Eels for week
sure.
one of the semis and then maybe get another rest the following week. So,
Well, I wish they all played.
yes, I'm sure you were hoping that, but it didn't work out that way for you. And
Yep.
then the next game was, oops, I just turned that off for a second. There it is. It was the Knights up against the Sharks. This one played at McDonald Jones Stadium at Newcastle, in front of nearly 17,000 fans there. Sharks were always going to be too good for the Knights, but early on, this was anyone's game. It was 12-all at halftime. The Knights were really showing what they're capable of when they turn it on and when they play a bit of footy and an expansive brand of footy. And Dominic Young got a double. Tex Hoy was playing great and looked dangerous every time he got the ball. But Sharks, while they were kind of turning up thinking it was going to happen in the first half, you knew that in the second half, their coach got into them and said, listen, guys, at halftime, you need to step up here and pull your heads in and put in a better performance for the second 40 minutes, and they did that.
For
and
sure.
It was a spectacle to behold in the second half.
Yeah, I'm glad they did too, because it was Old Boys Day up at Newcastle there, and they had like all the old greats of the club watching them that day. So it was good to see them come back and show some sort of respect. But I thought they struggled most of the game, the Knights, up until that end bit. But it was hard fought by him. Cam McGuinness topped the tackle count with 50 tackles. Look at this, a bit of a melee there. And Nikora, Steve. And when was the last time we saw a back rower?
Britton Nikora getting a hat trick. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an impressive player.
Very impressive. He's been playing tough and strong. I thought Nico Hines was very good on the day, and he'll be the difference for the Sharkies.
Yeah, going into the semi-finals, he's got that. Just that game, that presence about him. He's a kind of very level-headed guy. He doesn't get overawed by the situation, and
very calm.
Very much so, and leads them around the park. So Sharks, as I keep saying, sneaking under the radar. Not a lot of people are talking about them, but they secured second spot on the ladder, and everyone's talking about the Panthers, the Eels, the Cowboys, the Roosters, Melbourne, but no one's really talking about the Sharks, as I keep saying, and they'll be happy about that.
Yep, for sure.
Then the final game of the round, and this was all up to the Raiders. They really didn't have to do anything because of Brisbane having lost their game against the Dragons. But you knew that the Tigers had to come out and win by 60 or something for the Broncos to have a chance. But it was the Raiders doing the opposite. Leichhardt Oval there, 10,000 fans. I think half of them walked out at halftime because at halftime it was 42-0. Halftime, 42-0.
Could have been anything, this one. It could have been history breaking.
Making. People were talking about the Raiders could win by 112 to put the Rabbitohs into 8th spot for them again. It wasn't going to happen. That would have to be a world record for that to happen. But
the game would have had to have gone for 3 hours.
But at that rate in the second half, but at 42-0 at halftime, you're thinking they could have easily put on 80. But to their credit, the Tigers came out. They got 2 tries in the second half. At one stage, we were leading the second half, but Raiders too much class. Tigers really woeful. It's not first grade material what they're putting out on the park.
No, definitely not. Not, man. Look, turns out that didn't really matter what happened in the Broncos-Dragons game, because Raiders are just going to come out and do this to the Tigers. They missed 53 tackles, Steve. I mean, you'd have to look at that as a coach and just be absolutely devastated. Something is just not gelling there. Hudson Young is absolutely on fire, mate. He scored a double. I think he's playing really well lately, and just Raiders as a whole looked really sharp on the day. I think there could be a little bit of a sneaky one in the finals too that everyone's underestimating.
Yeah, well, they've got the wood over Melbourne, especially down in Melbourne. They don't fear that place at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if Canberra were able to get over Melbourne in the semi-final, which is a sudden death one coming up.
Oh,
But
imagine that.
so there's 8 spot is not necessarily just cannon fodder for the semi-finals. They can definitely do something, especially the way they're playing and the confidence they've got. But I was really impressed with Jamal Fogarty's game in this one. Not only did he score a try of his own, but he got 9 from 9, and then got a penalty goal as well. So 10 goals on the day. Pretty impressive.
Very good. Very big day by Fogarty. So, also the Tigers fans, at one stage, just when the Tigers completed a set of defence, they cheered like they won the grand final. Because I believe they scored like 4 tries in a row.
It was back to back to back, and it was like nearly was going to go 4 in a row, 4 sets, to score, but they actually managed to stop them at one.
Hold them out for 5 tackles.
That was a massive cheer, a Bronx cheer. So well done to the Raiders. A massive score, and they didn't have Whiten or Whitehead in their team this week, so still some big players who were rested out, and they still managed to do it. And so, big off-season coming for the Tigers. Tim Sheens and Benji Marshall have got a lot to do there to make them a first-grade side next year. They do have a few people coming, but they're going to have massive improvement. And Dave, our prediction proved true. They came last. Our wooden spoon prediction.
25 weeks later, we won the money, me and you. I'm impressed.
We're geniuses. So there you have it. That was round 25, all done and dusted. Bad luck to the Tigers. Bless you.
Sorry, mate.
All good.
Just had a bit of a sneeze.
So let's have a look at the ladder at the end of the season. This is where things stand. You've got the Panthers, as we knew, sitting first, minor premiers. Congratulations to them. 6 points clear of the Sharks, who are outright second on 38 points. The Cowboys outright third on 36 points. And then congratulations to the Eels. That victory over Melbourne, securing them 4th spot. That's the top 4. They get a second bite at the cherry in the semi-finals. And then the top 8 is rounded out by Melbourne and the Roosters on 32 points. Then there's the Rabbitohs and the Raiders on 30 points. That is the top 8. As we said, Broncos missing out 28 points. Dragons were up there as well on 26 points. And then everybody else, pretty much disappointing seasons, especially for Manly, who many would consider have been a top 8 candidate, but it wasn't to be. Bulldogs getting themselves off the bottom of the ladder this year, improving, getting up to 16 points. Titans a disappointment. They were in the 8 last year, not making the semis this year. Newcastle continue to have some problems there, as do the Warriors. And then the lowly Tigers, last spot, only 10 points this season.
Time to make some humble stew with your wooden spoon, Tigers.
Yes.
I was very disappointed with Titans, Steve, too. Yeah. I had them in my 8 this year, and plenty of talent in that side and plenty of points in them, but they just couldn't put it together all year. So they'd be looking for a better season next year for sure too.
Yep. So that is the season proper done for 2022. Massive 25 rounds, and that leads us into the finals week 1 of the Premiership. It's a whole new ball game. You can forget about the season that just happened because semi-finals are a totally different game. Even having played last week, the Roosters and Rabbitohs, you can't take anything out of that. You've got to go, okay, brand new ball game. Where are we at? Let's have a look. So the first game, Friday, 9th of September, 7:50 p.m. kickoff. This one at Bluebet Stadium in Penrith, which is probably disappointing to fans not being able to get as many tickets as they would probably hope to have been able to get access to at a bigger stadium. I think there are now, as of Monday, from about midday on, there were only single tickets available for grandstand seats. So general admission, if you want to stand on the hill, because no one's going to be sitting, and it's not that pleasant on the dampness out there, but you can probably still get tickets, but only singles available for purchase from the seated ticket areas. But Panthers up against the Eels. Panthers favourites, obviously, with all their stars back in, fresh, rested. Eels got the momentum of having beaten Melbourne and having come off a couple of good wins in recent weeks. I know where your heart is, but where's your head for this one?
Mate, look, you're asking for me for too much. I'm going to tip Para here to win round 1 and have the week off.
Okay, and they have beaten the Panthers twice this year at full
Twice
strength,
this year.
pretty much.
That makes me a bit nervous because I don't know if they can do it a third time. But with that being said, they know they've got it in them, so it would be a massive advantage to them and to their season if they could somehow pull off a win up there. But with that being said, Penrith I don't see him losing to Para 3 times in a row, but I'm still tipping Parramatta Eels to do the job.
For your sake, I hope Parramatta win, but tipping with my head, have to go Panthers.
No problem.
Next game. Oh, well, that's not the score. Might be, but it's not. Melbourne up against the Raiders. As we were saying, this is the first of the 2 Saturday games. Saturday, 10th of September, 5:40 p.m. kickoff, Amy Park, Melbourne. We've said that Raiders don't fear playing down in Melbourne against Melbourne. They've got, not the wood over them, but they've got a good record down there against Melbourne. Jerome Hughes really won't he play? I don't know. Whiten comes back. Whitehead comes back for the Raiders. You know, this is one of those games you toss a coin. I'm just going to say, because of their experience and Bellamy's coaching, I'm just tipping Melbourne, but I don't have a lot of confidence.
Yeah. Look, I'm actually looking more forward to watching the 2 coaches this night.
One up in the box, one down on the field.
I reckon they will be.
Put a camera on each of them and just leave it on that.
Absolutely entertaining, but I think Bellamy's going to get them up for this one, and I think Storm to win at home.
Okay, and that will see the Raiders bow out. But you never know. It's always, anything's possible in this day and age.
For sure.
But we're both going Melbourne. Next up is the other Saturday game, 7:50 p.m. kickoff. This one at PointsBet Stadium at for the Shark Park, as it was previously known. Sharks are slight favourites in this one. This is probably the closest game of the weekend as far as not knowing who to pick, because, as I said, Sharks are skipping under the radar a little bit. Cowboys are playing really good brand of footy. Last week, 2 previous weeks, had a couple of losses. But I'm going to go Sharks at home.
What a matchup, man. You can't pick between them. They're both that good. I think the Cowboys are on fire and the Sharks are due for a loss. So I'm going for the Cowboys here.
Okay, all right. Then the big one that I'll be at, got my tickets this morning after a bit of a debacle with the passwords that were sent out. You'll probably hear about that in the news this evening. But Roosters up against the Rabbitohs, a rematch from last week, back at Allianz Stadium. This is a difference. The only difference really here is that it's played on Sunday at 4:05 p.m., where the previous one was a Friday, or was it? No, it was a Saturday at in the evening. This one, Sunday, 11th September, 4:05 p.m. kickoff, Allianz Stadium. As I said, Roosters are favourites, being the 6th place team and at home. Although I don't know how much of a home advantage it is when it's a brand new stadium that you really haven't got a record or a kind of a familiarity with. But nevertheless, I'm hoping Rabbitohs, and I just think when you come off a loss against a team the previous week, you learn more from your loss than you do from a win. And 100%. With Cook back and hopefully Cameron Murray playing the full game and the coach being there on the day, and I hope Campbell Graham, who was also missing from our previous game, is back this week. Joseph Manu out for the Roosters. A couple of doubts about some of their other players, but they do get some inclusions back in, like Suali'i. But I'm just going to go Rabbitohs, just on the fact that they lost last week and will want to bounce back this week.
I couldn't agree with you more. 2009, the exact same thing happened with Para and Dragons. Mm-hmm. We played them round 25. They smashed us 36-10 or something. Then we played them first week of the semis and we beat them. I see the same thing happening for the Rabbits. Put me down for the Rabbits.
Okay, there we go. So big games coming up this weekend. 4 massive semi-finals. 2 of them do or die. It could be the end of the season for either the Storm, the Roosters, the Rabbitohs, or Canberra. Wait and see how those games pan out. And then there are games to be won up in the top 4 position for a rest. to have one game to make it into the grand final. But lots to happen this weekend. Interesting games coming up. If you're able to get your tickets for your semi-finals, go out and enjoy the games. They're going to be some crackers. Looking forward to it, and it'll be interesting to talk about them next week. Hopefully, you'll live on regardless either way. Hopefully, I'm smiling from ear to ear next week.
You guys are in sudden death too, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, Roosters and Rabbitohs, yeah. Look, mate, exciting times. We just said it's for the players. It's a long year, but gee, didn't that season go fast, Steve? we're at semi-finals already, mate. So I don't think I've seen a better looking final series, to be honest with you, where a lot of the teams are very strong and any team can win it on their day from 1 to 8. So we'll see how it goes, round 1 of the semis, and hopefully we both come out smiling, brother.
Yeah, hopefully we do. Looking forward to it. Look forward to chatting with you next week, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for your company for this episode. Appreciate you sticking with us for the 25 rounds of season. Looking forward to chatting about the semi-finals next week. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Steve. We'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.